Boom! What's happening, crew? Super hot conditions for competing in a competition. There is some strategies that need to be considered about nutrition and hydration to make sure you are in the best possible shape for that day. So I thought I'd ask one of my good friends, Amie Cox, target nutrition sports dietitian extraordinaire, the question. Very simple. What are some pre-comp day, during comp day, snacking, eating, and hydration tips to be performing at your absolute best? And also, how far out should you be starting? Check out her answer.
Hello, Be Bad Coach family. Johnny has asked me to hop online today and give you guys a bit of a rundown on pre-competition fueling and hydrating appropriately for competition, especially, with the difference in outdoor, indoor settings, because it can be quite different. And sometimes it can be quite surprising at how much both, options plays a role in how you compete and perform on the day. Now, depending on, how you're preparing for this competition, for example, if you're cutting to make weight or if you're not, there's kind of two different priorities, I guess. So I'll talk about the people that aren't cutting, because life is much better when you don't have to cut, I have to tell you. So I'll do that first, and then I'll talk about those that do have to make weight. Now, for those who are not cutting, I'll talk about hydration first. So very, very important that you start this at least 24 hours before you are competing. So it's not just about drinking enough water, it's also about making sure you've got a right mixture of electrolytes as well. Now, as much as you can see a lot of things online, the actual best option to help keep hydrated and stay hydrated is actually definitely Hydrolyte. The difference is a 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 ratio of sodium to potassium to magnesium to calcium. And by having that right ratio, you're actually more likely to stay hydrated through the course of the competition. So highly recommend making sure you have a combination of that and the day before. A really good practice, which you probably won't have too much time, is knowing how much you actually sweat out, especially at this time of year. Know how much you lose in a normal training session. So everyone normally actively loses a certain amount of weight during training. Some people that can be 1 kilo, other people it could be 1.5 kilos in an hour's training session. So knowing how much you actually lose, you can appropriately hydrate yourself and overload prior to the competition. So by the time you finish, if you're normally sitting at your normal body weight, by the end of the competition, you're sitting in a pretty good spot. So very, very important, because if you are dehydrated and you're losing more than 2% of your body weight as a result of water loss, you are not going to lift as well. And that goes for whether you're cutting or not. So very, very important tip. You must hydrate yourself. Another thing is looking at trying to keep your body cool, especially when you're warming up. One of my favorite hacks, as strange as it sounds, is actually for men, women, ice in your pants. Ice in your pants, it cools you down significantly faster than pretty much any other method. You can put something on your head, you can put something on your feet, but I guarantee you that is the best paid place to put ice. If you have ice, if you have ice vests, wear them. It's about trying to keep that, core body temperature down, and they're the best ways to do it. Keep out of the sun, bring umbrellas if you need to. Very, very important if you are outdoors, do not stay in the sunshine for longer than you absolutely have to. Remember, if you're losing more than 2% of your body weight, you will not lift well. You're more likely to cramp. And if you're a person that cramps, you're either dehydrated or you don't have enough sodium. So very, very important to get right. Then from a fueling perspective, my main focus is is getting anywhere between 8 to 10 grams per kilogram of body weight is massively ideal of carbohydrates. So trying to do the good quality ones, so even if it's that keep you satisfied for a longer period of time. So rice, pasta, that's the extreme. Some people, if you're not having as much of that on a normal day, then I would recommend having maybe 5 to 6 grams. So it kind of depends on where you normally sit at with your carbohydrate intake. So fruit, bread, rice, pasta, raisin bread, pikelets with jam on it. You have some people that have juice, and it's just about trying to slowly drip feed yourself so you don't feel sick. And that's the same thing on comp day. You don't want to have too much, so it's really trying to manage stomach upsets, because if you go and have a lot and then you feel really sick, you have to put a weight belt on. It can make it really, really hard to then compete, especially if you have to bend over and you're feeling really sick. It's definitely not what you should be thinking about, that's not ideal. So about 2 hours before a competition, that's when you probably want to have, or 2 to 3 hours, your main meal, if you can, for a carbohydrate intake. And then depending upon when you're warming up, whether you're having something there, and then you want to be having something in between lifts as well, especially if you're waiting 10 to 15 minutes, you've got time to have some kind of carbohydrate. So for example, I used to just eat Powerade powder because it's just easier to do that. So if anyone's learned that from Johnny, that's actually from me. It makes a very, you're getting a decent amount of carbs, and you're not having a lot of actual physical food weight go into your stomach to make you feel uncomfortable, especially if you wear a belt. So that's probably the main thing, is don't underestimate how much energy being outside, being in the heat. The more you're in the heat, the more calories you burn, the more energy you're going to then use up in that setting. So if you're used to training inside in the gym and you do your normal session and that's how you feel, it's going to be a couple times worse. So heat makes a very, very big difference. If you have one more training session between now and then, make sure, test it out. It is incredibly hot at the moment. Weigh yourself at the beginning, weigh yourself at the end, keep track of how much fluid you take on, and if you go to the bathroom, see how much you lose, and that's basically roughly how much you'll lose in that training session. Everyone's normally still sweating after you finish, and you lose about another 50% of whatever that was. So it's making sure you are absolutely hydrated. Hydrolyte, you can get salt tablets, which I will get Johnny to put up, that you can get from the chemist for $10. Take those, maybe try them before competition. Don't really want to try new things on the day of, which may help as well. For those people who are making weight, I hope you have someone that is helping you. Basically just making sure, similar kind of process. The best part about you guys is you get the 24-hour weigh-in, which does help. It's just making sure you don't go too hard, too fast. And again, it's all about maintaining nausea. You don't want to give yourself the runs or whatnot either. So the slower you do it, the more likely you are to actually truly absorb what you're putting in. So yeah, it's just kind of about drip feeding yourself over that time. Again, quite a lot of carbohydrates. You just need a little bits of protein. You don't really need too much fat. Try and steer clear of fried foods, and just trying to truly refeed. So rice, pasta, bread, sandwiches, pikelets, stuff that I've kind of said before. Really depends upon your taste preference, obviously, as well. But it's definitely trying to get in as much as you possibly can over the course of that day. Make sure you have, a good, nice carbohydrate dense breakfast the day of competition. And you really want to think about your timing. So, you know, whether you're having something at 8 o'clock, 11, if you're competing at 2, that's probably really good timing. You probably need a little snack at 1 o'clock before you start, you know, really getting ready to kind of top you up. And then, like I talked about before, with the during competition foods. And yeah, it's really thinking about your timing, because if you're then on at 5 o'clock, you're turning up to the competition at, you know, 2 or 1 for, you know, briefing earlier on, and then you're sitting around in the heat, you're gonna feel tired. So yeah, it's definitely about trying to make sure you've got your timing right with your food. You know, the general day, you want to be making sure you're kind of eating every 3 hours, and then making sure one of those is, you know, 2 to 3 hours before you actually are lifting. So pay attention to the time that you should be on if you can, and then kind of count back from there. Have that, you know, pre-competition snack for the one lift, and then yeah, during training, hydration, hydrolyte. I have clients that do a mixture of, you know, 3 or 4 tablets of the hydrolyte. Everyone's a bit different depending on their sweat rate. And then I'll put Gatorade or Powerade powder in it as well. So you're getting the combination of the carbohydrate, and you're getting the combination of the actual hydration component. Definitely the best way to go about it. Or those salt tablets again, if you are known to cramp. If you are known to cramp, very much recommend trying to make sure you fluid load the day before. So having some of those salt tablets or the hydrolyte, they're really great the day before to make sure you're fluid loaded for the following day. They're probably my main tips. Yeah, biggest thing, or 3 most important parts: salt, or your electrolytes as well, depending on the person, carbohydrates, and keeping cool. You know what we should do? We should put a slushy machine. Johnny, we need a slushy machine for a competition. There's some really good evidence about how much of a difference slushies make when you're competing, because again, it's like that internal part of your body is cooling down. So hot tip for that one there, you're getting ice, carbohydrate, and stay cool. Even if you're inside, it's very sneaky. Sometimes you don't really recognize how much you're sweating. So again, practice if you can. Find out how much you lose over a training session. An hour is plenty. You'll probably lose more if you're doing like a taper session this week that's left. So yeah, definitely pay attention to that. Slushies, I like it.